and welcome back to Black Sofa. And yes, I am actually back on the black sofa. Um, back in my sitting room, back on the black sofa, because I can't film in the kitchen because the washing machine is on. So here I am, back on the black sofa where it all began. And I thought it was about time I finally recorded part 3 of how I lost my faith. And I'm going to finish this series, this story, talking about depression and the silence of God. And so this will be the final part of my story. I mean, there's a lot more to my story than these 3 parts, but these the 3 parts that I've that I've told you about are the main. It's the main, what I believe to be the main 3 cruxes of the issue. If that makes sense. Anyway, so I'm just going to glance at my notes to make sure I don't miss anything. To make sure that I say everything that I want to say. Okay, so I have suffered from depression on and off for pretty much most of my adult life now. And before I was born again, before I became a committed Christian, I considered myself an atheist. I didn't want anything to do with God or religion or anything like that. But I was often suicidal. But after I was born again, after I got saved, all that changed. Yes, I still had bouts of depression, but they weren't as severe as they were before. And I believed that was because I had the Holy Spirit in me. I had the joy of the Lord, the joy of God's salvation. I had something to live for. I had a purpose in life. And I had the hope of heaven when I died. And that kept me going. And I'd never expected to become suicidal. I accepted that I would be depressed, but I never expected to become suicidal ever again, because I and many other Christians have been taught from the pulpit, and we've read it in books, and in the Bible it says, God will never test you beyond what you can bear. I'll come back to that later. So I genuinely believed that because I was born again, saved, spirit-filled, and full of the joy of salvation, I believed that I was immune from suicidal thoughts and tendencies. So it was a rude awakening for me, and towards the end of 2013, when I was hit with a very severe spell of depression, anxiety and stress. And for the first time in a long time, for the first time since being born again, I felt suicidal. I wanted to end my life. And I would think of ways to go about it. I made plans of how of what ending my life would look like, and I didn't. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I did not expect that whatsoever, because, as I said, I genuinely believed that God would never test me beyond what I could bear. But here I was, being tested beyond what I could reasonably bear. And so I prayed and prayed and prayed. I prayed earnestly and fervently. I got down on my knees and I begged God to heal me, to take this pain away, to take the depression away, to take the anxiety away, the stress, and most of all to take away the suicidal thoughts and tendencies. And I tried everything. I would be pacing up and down, praying in tongues, casting out demons, repenting, confessing my sins, asking the Holy Spirit to fill me. But I felt nothing. Now, you have to understand, up until that point, whenever I prayed, I felt good. I felt a warm glow in my heart. And I believed that to be the Spirit's power welling up inside me. Of course, I now know that that those good feelings, those fuzzy feelings, are down to neurotransmitters, doing their thing, serotonin levels rising, adrenaline flowing, dopamine, oxytocin, all of that stuff, good stuff, increasing, all that, happiness chemicals, increasing inside my brain and, causing me to feel good about myself. But at the time, I genuinely believed it was the power of the Holy Spirit welling up inside me, and it made me feel good. But now, I didn't feel that at all. I didn't feel the fuzzy feelings. I didn't feel the warm glow in the pit of my stomach. I didn't feel anything. I just felt numb. I felt nothing. And it seemed to me at the time that God was silent. That God had abandoned me just when I needed him the most. I tried to reason with him. I said, look, okay, God, if it was just me on my own, if I was just single, I wasn't married, didn't have kids, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't mind. But I'm married. I do have kids. And it's having a detrimental effect on my relationship with my wife. I knew it was having a detrimental effect on the kids. It was I could see that it was affecting them in their behaviour, and it tore me apart. And I said, I don't care about me, God, but for them, you know, for the sake of my marriage and for the sake of the children, please, 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 heal me. Make this go away. Silence. No feelings, no happy feelings, no warm sensation in the pit of my stomach, no Holy Spirit power, just numbness, silence. And I just didn't understand why. Why was God doing this? And the thing is, I already had doubts and questions that wouldn't go away. And up until that point, I had just swept them under the carpet. I reasoned that who am I to question God? You know, He is God. He is in heaven. I am down here. You know, the earth is His footstool. The earth is His, and everything in it. And I kept coming back to something that Paul wrote in, I think it's 1 Corinthians. He says, we do not understand God in this life. In this life we only see God. What we see of God is just like looking at our reflection in a dirty, cracked mirror. But one day we will see Him in all His glory. One day we'll know everything. He will be fully revealed to us. And so I reasoned that, okay, I don't understand God now, and perhaps in this life I never will. But when I'm with Him in glory, I will understand Him fully. I'll understand everything in the by and by. That is what I told myself. And so I swept all of these questions and doubts under the carpet. Just put them at the back of my mind. But the depression, the stress, anxiety, suicidal thoughts and feelings brought them to the forefront of my mind. I couldn't ignore them any longer. And people, well-meaning friends that I went to church with, said, Mike, this is the depression talking. Okay, just ignore these questions, put these questions to one side for now. Examine them closer by all means when you're better. You're not well enough to cope with these questions now. Other Christians, other Christian friends said to me, don't dwell on the negative side of God. Don't dwell on the bad things that you read about God in the Bible. Don't dwell on those things, because it's just going to make you more depressed. Just focus on the good stuff. And I really wanted to. I really wanted to just focus on the good things and forget about the bad stuff. And but I couldn't. I couldn't bear the cognitive dissonance that I was experiencing anymore. I couldn't. So first, okay, rewind. I've gone off track a bit. I so what happened was let me put it another way. Now, looking back with the benefit of hindsight, I've come to realize that most Christians, they come to the Bible and they read the Bible through the lenses of faith. They come to the Bible believing in God already, believing that God is real. That's their starting point. They already believe that God is real, and they interpret the Bible through the lenses of faith. And believing that the Bible is inspired by God, and I did too. But I think what happened is that depression knocked my lenses off, and so I started reading the Bible without them, objectively, critically, and I found that I just could not reconcile the Yahweh of the Old Testament, who not only ordered genocide, but in some cases committed it himself directly, as in the flood, for example. He committed ethnic cleansing. He was jealous and proud of it. It was a nasty piece of work. I couldn't reconcile this malicious, capricious, evil God of the Old Testament with the peaceful, loving, graceful, forgiving Jesus of the New Testament. So first I ditched the Old Testament. I just didn't want anything to do with the Old Testament. I just stopped reading it. I just thought it's irrelevant. The Old Testament is irrelevant. We're not under the Old Covenant anyway. We don't have to follow the laws of Moses. There's no need to read the Old Testament. Let's just ditch it. So the Old Testament went out the window. I just read the New Testament. But the problem was that I realized that since Jesus and God are one, since God the Son, Christ, is part of the triune Godhead, the Father, the Holy Spirit, the Son, and they're all one. Jesus is the Son is just as bad as God the Father. In fact, he's the same. So if you read, and also if you read Revelation, he does his own fair share of of genocide as well. And so eventually I ditched the New Testament too. I stopped reading the Bible altogether. And at that time, I was praying. I was desperately trying to hold on to my faith. And I remember praying every morning when I woke up, Lord, I want to believe. Please help me in my unbelief. And it became like a mantra. And it was just a mantra that I repeated day after day, morning after morning. And in the end, it all came to a head one morning when I woke up with the thoughts, you're not there, are you, Lord? You never were. And that's it. A light went on in my brain. I didn't believe in God anymore. And I've been an atheist ever since. So that's it. That concludes my story of how I lost my faith and became an atheist. If you've liked this video, then give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, then please do subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video.